Hey everybody. Just wanted to bring something up. I've been trading notes with a couple of folks on my channel and those I knew were kind of interested in the feasts and the seasons on their channels. And the broader point was that I think several of us, maybe just about all at the same time, discovered a bunch of videos out on YouTube that made the claim that the Jewish calendar was off, either has been off in history or at a minimum was off in 2013. And I chased around and I think at least there's a couple of references coming back to this article I'm showing right here. If you go to Spirit and Truth or spiritandtorah.com, a Jewish calendar incorrect for 2013. It's a really good article by this Don Esposito. Again, I don't know about this source, but he's making a real strong biblical argument. You can see he's quoting all of his passages, and the explanation of why it's wrong fits with the bit I do know about the Jewish calendar system and the Bible. So um, with that said, I basically, I hold loosely to these things that I'm not convicted of, but like I say, there's enough chatter about the calendar, the Jewish calendar in particular, being wrong, which leads to the feast days being wrong, which led to a lot of people, you know, posting YouTube videos talking about the different feasts, whether it was Passover or Shavuot, and then the upcoming ones here that we'll have, Rosh Hashanah. What if the what if the celebration days are wrong? And maybe it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Um, just a minute. But a lot of us are just learning how significant God's appointed times were and are. Um, Love to get into this and do our Bible studies and learn more about these feasts, which including myself. And so I kind of took notice of this in the last few days, and we made some connections on my channel how there could be a linkage between Pentecost and the rapture of the church. And again, nobody wants to set dates. Nobody wants to appear to be holding back from setting a date to not have to repent from it later. I mean, everybody wants to walk away from that, but um, I'd say many or most people that are familiar with the Bible and the festivals look to Pentecost and they look to Rosh Hashanah as possible dates for the rapture. And we are told in the Bible to wait basically anxiously for the return of the Lord. And so I think there's absolutely nothing wrong for being spirit-filled and joyful about the coming of the Lord. And he did give us indications in the Bible as to you know signs of the end of the age, and Matthew 24 and Luke 21, which Luke 21 is probably its own little video because there's a few things to be careful of there, and then Mark 13. But I don't feel bad digging into the Bible and digging into the feasts and being hopeful for the Lord. I think everybody's just got to be careful that we don't draw a line and cross over it, like's been done with so many of the famous date setters in the past. And so I just get intrigued by this stuff and I want to dig into it, and it builds up my spirit and hopefully yours too. So I'm pointing out this article, and let me just get into this a little bit. The main argument that's being made is, hey, the Jewish calendar system is off, and the article not only explains how is it supposed to be calculated, but according to the Bible, but also what went wrong in the past. And that's why I like this article. Is a lot of people can say, oh, it's off, but what you want is the why, to give yourself some assurance that this is just not another bit of idle speculation on the internet, which I'm always careful of. And even when I was doing my prior videos on the feasts and on this looking into Pentecost, I ran into a bunch of information that pointed to errors in the calendaring or errors in the festivals or whatever, but there wasn't enough evidence there to make me want to go dig further until just in this week here, where it seemed like I'd just run into a whole bunch of videos and a whole bunch of websites that were starting to say, here's why it's off. And this one in particular does a great job of summarizing it. So the long and short of it is, for 2013, according to the Jewish calendar, Passover, the current Jewish calendar, Passover was on March 26th. However, according to the biblical calendar, this is a intercalary, I don't ever know how to say that year, in which a 13th month needs to be added, and the true biblical Passover is actually on the night of April 23rd, the beginning of the 14th of Aviv, this first month of the biblical year. And they're making this point, and it comes down to just a couple of simple things. One is the year was supposed to be divided on the equinox, and the current Jewish calendar has been fixed. And I'm not going to read the whole article to you, but if you scroll down, it's not actually not that long. If you scroll down toward the bottom of the page, they talk about this issue of what happened in, I think everybody's probably heard of the Bar Kokhba revolt. It ended in 135 AD. And this is basically what they're saying here is the calendar basically was pointed away from the feast because the diaspora was on for the Jews and was pointed more toward celebration time frame. I forget what the whole argument here was, but that was one. And also they started looking at not the vernal equinox for the start of the year, but they looked at the moon phases. And I guess part of that, they're talking about here, when Jews were in the first diaspora with the Babylonians, the calendar got corrupted, where they started taking a look at the moon and the new moons to align the calendar versus the equinox in the way that God said to do it. And so there was some corruption in the first diaspora with the Babylonian system, and a lot of that, I think, if people know the history, the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud, which is current day Judaism, follows the Talmud probably more than the Torah. There's a lot of leaven, if you want to say, crept into the practice of Judaism coming out of the Babylonian Talmud. And people know about the Kabbalah and about some of the mysticism, just like maybe the Catholic Church puts history and tradition on the same level as Scripture. And when Constantine in the 300s AD decided to marry paganism with Christianity so that he could embrace all the people in the empire, he infused a whole bunch of pagan practices into Christianity, and we still haven't unwound from that. And so, I would say maybe it's the hand of Satan kind of been poking in and pushing in the whole time, trying to modify God's times and his laws and his decrees, is where this all kind of comes to at the end of the day. What I will say, though, is I went digging because I think this brings everybody right back to Scripture, and I'll pause here for a minute. I'm going to click into eSword and show you a couple of things. Okay, so I'm in this tool called eSword, and if you watch some of my other videos, you may have seen this, but it's a free tool. I really like it because you can get the King James version with strong numbers. So you can just hover over anything, and you get the Strong's numbers, and you can start comparing definitions. And so when we take a look at errors in the calendar system and the fact that this is really historical, it goes back in the first diaspora for the Jews with the Babylonian influence. It goes back to the Bar Kochba revolt period of time. I think a lot of people know that the Jewish calendar right now has them in year 5773, I think. Well, I'll pop one up so we can see that, but most of the Bible scholars say, well, we know that's off probably by 200 to 250 years for a couple of different reasons. One being some of the years weren't counted. I guess the priests kept the calendaring system, so some of the years weren't counted while they were in diaspora. The second problem was when this Bar Kochba revolt occurred and ended in 135 AD, the year was changed during that period of time, and some of the articles I read were pointing to the fact that the Jewish people of the time were trying to make it such that the leaders of that revolt, or one of them, was being set up as the Messiah because they knew from Daniel's 70-week prophecy that the Messiah should have come. And so they corrupted the year trying to make it fit that he was the Messiah. I've read other articles that were trying to say the same thing about the Maccabean revolt and trying to fit the calendar to that. But what we know is that the error in the Hebrew year moves the other way. It would make more sense that the year got changed during the Bar Kochba revolt than in the Maccabean revolt. And so I bring all that out to say that there is a passage in the Bible that speaks to what the Antichrist is going to do during the 7 years of tribulation, and that's where it's pointed. Now, if you go to Daniel 7:25, here's the passage, and he is the Antichrist here, shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times. Okay. And laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and dividing of time. And so everybody that's studied this before knows that this is a 3.5 year period being referenced here. And so most likely what this is in reference to is the midpoint of the tribulation, when the Antichrist is in the temple declaring himself to be God. He probably resets the year, at least, if not the whole calendar at that point. Just like Satan always copies God in a bad in a bad way. You got the heavenly Trinity and you got the satanic Trinity, and all the actions of Satan. He wanted to be like God and sit in the high places and declare himself to be God. Well, here's just one more example: is the current calendar was attempted to be set around Jesus' birth, and there's some indication here that the Antichrist is going to seek to change the times, and no doubt he's going to point it to something related to him instead of Jesus. And so we've got that. Now, I was curious about times because the Moed, the given times from Genesis chapter 1, spoke specifically of, God said he gave. Let me click over to it and we'll take a quick look. Okay, I just clicked over to Genesis 1:14, and God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years." Okay, and signs. Look, it's the definition down here says as a flag or a beacon or a monument, and so That's where a lot of people are looking at the blood moons, looking at comets or whatever, because God is pointing us that way, saying, hey, take a look, I'm doing this for you. And for seasons, and here you get the Moed. Um, this is the fixed or appointed time for festivals, and that's where we get the different festivals that we've been talking about, whether it's Pentecost or Passover or whatever. Um, the lights in the sky and the night in heaven were to divide the day from the night, and for signs and for seasons and whatever. And so God's appointed feasts and all that had to do with the celestial movement of the planets, and including the equinoxes and all that, right? Um, and for days, and this is just Yom, but you know, day is a whole nother study, uh, I guess, in the Bible. So the long story short on that is God's telling us that this is the basis of the calendaring system. And then you'll see, if you go look at that article that I had up earlier, he quotes all the different other passages where God is saying how to set the year. How do you know you at the start of the year? And he says, don't have certain festivals, tabernacles, I think, and I forget the other one, until the new year has begun, right? So you've got cycles of the festivals that were supposed to be bounded by the equinoxes. And so where I'm going with this is trying to relate it back to, has the work of Satan always been to try and corrupt the calendaring system? And you can't make a direct line between um, this use of seasons, at least I can't because I don't speak Hebrew, with the Moed and the times that are referenced in the Daniel 7 passage, which was a different Strong's number. It was H2166. But H2166, the definition did look like it was for periods of time, not necessarily tied to a festival, but it could be calendar time related. And so I'm going to just conclude with the concept of that, this has probably been the work of Satan since day one. Is you've got the Jewish calendar corruption that's been there for thousands of years. You've got the original uh, calendar that was supposed to be based on Jesus' birth, which we use, which was missed by, most people say, 2 to 3 years. And then you got a big debate over that because in 1500 or thereabouts, there was two versions of an article that were written um, from a pastor and an author in that day, and one of them pointed to um, the tie for Jesus' birth being the death of Herod. And in the first iterations of the letter, he put that death of Herod at 1 BC, and in the future iterations or copies of that letter, somehow it became 4 BC. And so you get even debate within people that agree that Jesus wasn't born in 1 AD, but he was really probably born in either 2, 3, or 4 or 5 BC. And so always the calendar system has been challenged, whether it's the Hebrew one or the Gregorian one that we use today. And I wonder if this is just a work of Satan. So there is a big long bucket of stuff just to say that in 2013 here, for everybody that's doing YouTube videos and watching stuff that think, oh, we just missed that feast, or this is come, or that's gone, or get excited for this, Rosh Hashanah or whatever. I think we have to stay close to the biblical definition of the calendaring system and when the feasts were supposed to occur. And so I link you back to that article. I'm going to quick pop up another site that tries to correct the actual year of the Hebrew calendar system, and then we'll close the video. Okay, this is just the last thing I'll end with here, which is this world's last chance, again, to pick this up from other YouTube folks, I can't verify that their calculations are any more correct than anybody else's. Um, but if you want to go to this site, you can study the reasoning they have for creating this calendar. They're trying to faithfully do the lunisolar calendar. They point to the calendar given to us by the Creator, and then they've got the current Gregorian calendar. And so you can just see here if this calculation, this site is correct. We're in the year 6000 and the second month and the 26th day. So I just put that out there as food for thought. It just everybody that digs into it, says the same thing, that the Jewish calendar, both the year and the festivals and seasons methodology has been corrupted from what was given in the Bible. And we know that most likely our calendar, which was supposed to be based on Jesus' birth, was off at least by years in its calculation as well. And so when we come down and we look at these feasts and these celebrations, especially given the biblical feast given to us, if we want to do it correctly, we have to be look for a way to make sure that has fidelity to the Bible and not to tradition coming from uh, Jewish tradition in the way that they take a look at the calendaring system. So I'll close with that, and I guess God bless everybody, and thanks for watching.